People have a common saying that you cannot beat a child and tell him or her not to cry. Nigerians are outraged that government is criminalizing payment of ransom to kidnappers when it has not done enough to tackle rising kidnapping across the country. Now, the Senate has passed a bill seeking to amend the Terrorism Prevention Act 2013, which, among other things, outlaws payment of ransom to kidnappers and terrorists for the release of any person wrongfully confined, imprisoned, or kidnapped. The move by the lawmakers has attracted public outcry, with many Nigerians describing the bill as unnecessary and unrealistic. In this Journalist Hangout Weekend special, TVC News' Ayodeji Moradeyo compiled the views of some Nigerians on the matter. Here is the story.
Kidnapping for ransom by gunmen has reached an alarming rate in Nigeria in the last few years, as the country fights to contain the dreaded Boko Haram terrorists in the northeast and bandits across the country. High-profile kidnapping used to be the order of the day before bandits changed gear and began to go for abduction of middle-class and rural people with impunity. Many Nigerians have become victims and made to part with hefty ransom before they regain their freedom. Many school children have also become victims of abduction. Kidnapping prevails despite measures put in place by the government to check it. The Nigerian Police Anti-Kidnapping Squad introduced is striving to stem the menace. But it is hampered by lack of manpower and poor logistics. Recently, the Senate passed a bill seeking to amend the Terrorism Prevention Act 2013. The bill, among other things, seeks to outlaw payment of ransom to kidnappers and terrorists of any person wrongfully confined, imprisoned, or kidnapped. The overall import of the bill is to discourage kidnapping for ransom in Nigeria, which has become prevalent in most parts of the country. But the move by the lawmakers has attracted public outcry, with many Nigerians describing the bill as unnecessary. The governor of Bauchi State, Bala Mohammed, expressed his reservation about the issue.
Maybe it's a moral issue, not a legal issue, for which I am not very versed in, but certainly we wouldn't want to be payment to legalize payment of ransom in such a manner that we encourage the spirit of abduction and what have you. I think the communities, the individuals are free to exercise their citizenship right to pay ransom or not, but they should not be prevented by a legal framework. That's my feeling.
In Ondo State, lawyers and other professionals are also reacting to the passage of the bill by the lawmakers.
I believe is that they are within this.
They say criminalizing ransom payment by the National Assembly shows the wide gap that exists between the lawmakers and their constituents.
Kidnapping has come to stay with us, either we like it or not. So many families are now in agony because they have not been able to get back their kidnapped relatives. So they want to do everything possible to get their loved ones. If we now debar them from doing that, you are preventing them from having a continuous sharing of love with their family members, and nobody would like this. So if you cannot get their family members for them, you can prevent them from paying ransom to get their family members. That would be an injustice. That would be unjust.
First place, the state is failing its fundamental duty to protect its citizens. The state is showing total helplessness in freeing those who are unfortunately kidnapped, and the state is coming back to criminalize, efforts, self-help by those who want to secure the release of their loved ones. I think that makes no sense. Nobody pays ransom as a cheerful giver. No. People pay ransom out of sorrowful heart. So if the state is helpless, cannot secure the release of a kidnapped person, how then do we tell their loved ones that, look, it's also criminal for you to even secure the release of your loved ones? It makes no sense. I mean, even scripturally, we are told in the Bible, and I think that is in Proverbs chapter 13, verse 8, that the ransom of a man's life is his riches. So if you have to pay ransom to secure your life, Not willingly though, but if that is the last option.
You also have to consider the mindset of the loved ones of these people in captivity. You understand? You don't criminalize their efforts to release their loved ones from the gulag of these nefarious characters, particularly when the government is doing next to nothing about rescuing them. So as far as I'm concerned, the National Assembly is on a frolic of its own. The National Assembly is showing itself to be what it is, a house that is not in touch with its constituents.
Some activists in Osho State also described the action of the lawmakers as insensitivity, particularly at a time kidnapping is rampant and government has not shown enough zeal to curb it.
Vulnerable people of this country who are majority victims of kidnapping have no choice than to pay. And the reality is, they pay through their nose. Nobody pay with happiness. They pay because they want to save a family member from being killed. And how can you now say such a person deserves to go to jail for 15 years for rescuing their family member? Most of the time, their husband, wife.
It's laughable, and it's a systematic failure. A situation where everything is commodified. This is what you get. I think the priority has been left undiscussed. And if the country is the way it is today, I think the National Assembly equally needs to be held responsible. Now, what legislation has they been doing? The division in the governance of this country, we are not feeling it anywhere.
Some respondents from the nation's capital also bear their minds on the matter.
It's criminalized by 15 years by the Senate, which have just passed recently. You know, how are they likely, how is the state likely to enforce it? Owing to the fact that a lot of these ransoms that are paid in this country, one, you know, it is not paid through formal channels. You know, there's no statistics in regards to that. You know, there's no particular way in which the government will know or proof of such payment. These are money paid in Ghana must go in the middle of the night or, you know, on marked locations.
As it is, the country is still in search of the way out of incessant kidnapping for ransom.
Well, interesting times. Dari, let me start with you. What do you make of this development? Do not pay ransom to the terrorists.
We Yorubas have a saying that says,
it fats in your mouth and then added salt. So you cannot
swallow the fat.
Swallow the fat, and
the
you
salt
can also
you are unwilling to spit out.
No, it should be sugar. Maybe honey. Honey is better because
well, whatever it
salt
is,
might be very
sweetening
hard.
anyway. Because rather, I think the discourse should be about how do we ensure nobody's kidnapped. Cannot beat a child and insist you must not cry.
Serious beating.
Because kidnapping is pummeling, not just beating. That's pummeling. Then you expect the child to. It's just that in this country we get to hear about acts that become laws without even as much as a public hearing. I tell you, it happens in this country. Otherwise, questions should have been asked this.
They had public hearing and people
will go there. I will not ask the right questions.
People
they
oppose
oppose it. You should have asked the senators. Have you had one of your relatives kidnapped before? I have experienced it. A classmate of mine was kidnapped on Kogi Edo Road. We are on the same platform, secondary school platform. And, you know, when they asked him to call, knowing the home he's from, the person he called was the chairman of my set, who quickly rushed to the platform and said, so person have been kidnapped. And the numbers of the kidnappers were given to us. And I was one of those selected to be negotiating with them. The last time I spoke with the kidnapper, they were asking for 4 million. And within an hour or two, we were able to raise like 600,000. And they used his own phone to send us a video of how they were using a dagger to slice his body. And they told us, we have quickly covered that we have 600,000. He said, Mr. Man, or whatever, that if you call back again, and what you are telling me is not that you want to pay, that I will shoot this man. That anytime we call again without telling him we are ready to pay, we'll shoot the man. In that circumstance, somebody will now say, you go to jail if you pay. We even had to pay the money we transferred money. And, we provided evidence, everything to the police eventually when it was released. Right. They did not follow the lead. It was a POS on our own, using some of our own colleagues who are in this or that. They were able to trace that the POS, the person holding the POS in Bauchi. We provided evidence when it was released, everything. The police did not follow that lead. But government can tell us now, don't pay. And you don't pay the kid. The guy told us that where they kept them, that you found many rotten bodies, bones of human beings, and they were told that, see, these people, their people did not pay money in time. And they killed them. So for you to tell Nigerians don't pay, it can only happen when you can assure that we assure you that nobody will ever be kidnapped again. Or when your person is kidnapped within 24 hours, we will effect the release. If government is not going to be able to tell us that, I don't think it's morally right to say don't pay ransom. When the IG at the time, a sitting IG told us the Nigerian police is overwhelmed. And the military leadership once told us they don't have the capacity to confront all the insecurities at the same time. So people will find a way of ensuring the safety of their kidnapped relatives. Well, obviously.
BKO, the Senate claims that the intention is to block the source of money, which seems to be the motivation for kidnappers. So it appears that other strategies have actually failed. And don't you think it might not be out of place to check the effectiveness of this so-called legislation?
Well, one thing I know is that if today the relation of a senator is kidnapped, if they ask for 50 million, they will raise that 50 million. If they ask for 100 million, they will quickly look for that 100 million. We've seen people pay as much as 100 million as ransom for an individual.
One of the abductees.
So, well, you don't have evidence.
So we heard.
But we also know that they couldn't have left him just like that. But we don't know how much he paid.
Well, in the spirit of Ramadan, anyway.
Yes, we don't know how much. They also said because of his age. But so I know someone who is still being held.
And his older than
a grandmother who is still being held. Yes. Is around 90 years. And he's still with them. Only for them to come. It's gullible Nigerians who simply believe such things. But that's not the what we are here to talk about.
Yeah.
I'm saying that if someone in the Senate or even their relation is kidnapped, if they ask for 100 million, they will mobilize that money, they will pay.
Yeah, we've seen lawmakers being kidnapped and released in 48 hours.
So it's not, see, look at what section 14 of the bill says. The bill was sponsored by Senator Ezenwa Francis Onyewuchi, Imo East Senatorial District. If Ezenwa Francis is kidnapped today, the senator from Imo East, and they ask for 150 million, they will look for the money. The leadership of the Senate, from Ahmad Lawan and the rest of them, they will mobilize that money quickly to come out to secure the release of Onyewuchi. So let's
before any other thing.
People, when they say that the Senate behave like people who are disconnected, I believe so. We've seen situations in which the police would even advise you, you better go and pay the ransom. Look, it takes someone close to you being kidnapped to know the kind of mess that we have found ourselves in our country. Because when my auntie was kidnapped in Kogi, it got to a point they were not picking my calls anymore. And I thought that, look, oh, Jide, you know this one, you know that one. They stopped picking my calls at the point. And what did we have to do? We had to pay ransom because the woman was kidnapped close to my village, maybe about 4 or 5 kilometers to my village. But they made them to trek for up to 7 days inside the forest. And we ended up paying ransom in the Akoko Edo area.
Of Edo State.
all the way from Kogio.
The same thing.
They passed through Ajowa in Ondo State, forest,
On foot.
and then ended up. Yes, they made them to walk. That's why some people die in their hands, because some don't have the energy.
And
They don't have the endurance.
Battling ailments.
Yeah, some have ailments. There are some who don't have access to their drugs.
And they take hard drugs. They can actually navigate anywhere.
Even without hard drugs, some of them they're already used to that life.
Okay.
They are used to that life, so it's nothing to them. Now, going to that section 14 says, anyone who transfers funds, makes payment, or colludes with an abductor or kidnapper or terrorist to receive any ransom for the release of any person who has been wrongfully confined, imprisoned, or kidnapped is guilty of a term of imprisonment of not less than 15 years. So, what I would like to see them do or concentrate on is how we can ensure that kidnapping becomes a thing of the past. And we can leverage on security. Kidnappers are using phone to negotiate for ransom. It's a national disgrace. Using phone to negotiate ransom, we can't track them.
What are we even talking
We
about?
can't track them. We can't catch them.
Mincing language.
Police sometimes, when somebody has been released by bandits, police will claim that they rescued. Will claim that they rescued.
Cover up the ransom.
Deceive themselves that they rescued. There was a man that papers carried the story that he was rescued. He started calling me. They didn't rescue me. Oh. We paid ransom. Oh. They didn't rescue me. Remember, it happened even to Ogbodo, Christian Ogbodo, the Nigerian footballer based in Italy. We claimed that we rescued.
He paid.
Whereas it was the club that sent about $50,000 or so. They had to, the family had to say, no, we didn't rescue. Yes. So if we have a police that encourages people to go and pay ransom,
you need to turn around.
What are we talking about? So you cannot stop people from expressing their love for their loved ones by quickly paying ransom rather than watch their loved ones killed. These are not the kind of laws that we expect these people to be making. They should show that they are not out of touch. And I know that a lot of Nigerian politicians, big politicians, are big hypocrites. The day their own relations get kidnapped,
they'll forget
You won't hear about it.
if it's someone that they like, which law? Don't even come up with a law that will be difficult to enforce. See Baba Falai, as famous as a man was, or is, he was kidnapped, and we were told that he was rescued. The man said, no.
We had to settle with them.
They didn't rescue me. We paid ransom.
That was even
and they
when
dropped me.
Govt-
He even mentioned where they dropped him
him.
after the ransom was paid. So we have a problem because the security agents are unable to rescue people. Once it happens and the report is lodged, they find it extremely difficult to rescue people. And there's evidence that some of them are even conniving with these bandits. So since they can't rescue, the people will take it upon themselves to do whatever it costs, whatever is necessary to ensure that their loved one comes out of captivity. It can't be a bad idea to spend your money to secure the life of another person. Nigerians will not obey this law. That is if the president passes it. Maybe the president may not even pass it because it's a ridiculous law. Do your best to secure our people, secure their lives. If you can't do it, the same way Nigerians are providing water for themselves, the same way Nigerians are providing electricity for themselves, they will provide security for themselves. They will secure the release of their loved ones in captivity if they can do it. They won't wait for the armed forces because they know that waiting for them is risky. That person may come back to you in a body bag.
Right. We've got Uche from Nnewi joining us on the show. Uche, make your point. Uche, if you can hear me. Hello, Uche. Make your point quickly.
Which how far now?
Well,
This is calling from
They keep us waiting. Yes.
good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You for welcome.
It's a pleasure.
Understandable. Make your point quickly.
Yeah, this is Tuesday calling from here. I think this present government. Let me just talk about this government. You know, when somebody fails mathematics and English language, you know, no matter what you do, you know, they'll get that you have failed, or even if you pass other subjects. Like Babajide will always talk about this government, you know, doing well in infrastructure. But I want to believe, okay, if you are building infrastructure and everybody now dies, so who are you building the infrastructure for? Even that infrastructure, to me, is questionable. Now, coming to the issue of kidnapping. Now, how can you now not give somebody life, and you now want to penalize the person for buying generator? I mean, how can you tell me, okay, you did not give me life, and you are penalizing me for buying generator? That is what is happening here. Yes? You cannot say the people that are kidnapped, and you are not saying that they should not pay ransom, that they want to criminalize ransom. I mean, it's not easy. It's terrible. It's terrible.
Right.
And this government promised a change. And look at where we are now. It's terrible.
Your point is made, Uche. Your point is made. Because of our time, we need to race against time. Dari, let's quickly, your final thoughts on this. You know, it's one thing for you to enforce, to make a law. It's another thing for you to enforce it. So do you see this as enforceable?
It's not a law that can be enforced, obviously. It's not a law that will be popular. And when a law is unpopular, the people will resist it. I insist, make kidnapping unattractive to kidnappers. Don't try to make saving my relative unattractive to me. No. I'll go out of my way to ensure my relative comes back to me alive. If I have assurance that if I leave this matter in the hands of the Nigerian police or the Nigerian army, my man or woman will come back home, then I can go home and rest. Trusting in kidnappings happen abroad too. It's not as if it doesn't happen there. But in a matter of time, you talk about those who are kidnapped has been rescued.
You can see it because the CCTV are there.
You can see efforts
absolutely
being made by an American was kidnapped here in Nigeria. American forces came and ensured his own safety. Yes. Not that even after like my friend I was telling you about, do you know that the Edo State Police Commissioner paraded them and said these are people they rescued? I took up the matter with him on phone, and everywhere I spoke with the spokesperson of the state. I was showing, I sent transaction receipts and everything. That this man in ordinary singlet, this bloody, with blood all over him, is our friend. See, this is what we paid. We sent a video of how the kidnappers were cutting him, everything. Rather than face the reality, the then CP was appealing that we should not embarrass the police. I still have the footages of discussion. It's unfortunate that this is what happens. When we should secure lives and properties, we are trying to save face. Face saving will not take us anywhere. If you don't make kidnapping unattractive, if people get kidnapped in Nigeria, Nigerians will pay ransom. And as long as Nigerians pay ransoms to save their loved ones, you cannot send them to jail. It will not be something you'll be able to do. Right. It will not happen.
All right. Quickly, your final thoughts on this before we call it a wrap. We just have less than a minute.
Yeah, we have no choice. We have to defeat banditry. Whatever strategy we use, we have to defeat banditry. It's just a big problem in our country. And I do not believe in criminalizing ransom payment, except where it is obvious that it was unnecessary. And it will only be unnecessary when our armed forces, when our policing system is so effective that once kidnapping happens, you know, in quick time, they can rescue people. Yeah. So, but as things stand now, look at those people now, those train passengers. Have they been rescued?
Still there.
Still there. So one even delivered baby right there.
So
It's very sad.
if I have a sister there amongst them, and they called me that look, you have to pay ransom. Will I wait for government?
Definitely not.
To secure them before paying?
Definitely not.